He won the Academy Award for Best Writing Adapted Screenplay for 12 Years a Slave. He's the executive producer and creator of the award-winning American Crime, the executive producer, writer, director of the upcoming miniseries, critically acclaimed already, Showtime's Gorilla, soon to be in theaters near you. The theatrical release of a very moving documentary called Let It Fall, Los Angeles, 1982 to 92. And yet, we bring John Ridley on the Rich Eisen Show and drag him right to the lowest common denominator because my guys do not know about Spinal Tap or Airplane.
Airplane.
Yeah.
I don't. You know, I never like to judge. Rich,
but John, judge away.
Of not, but
judge
you're
away.
either too young, too busy, or
no.
But there really was, very seriously, just very quickly,
Sure.
the cinematic history, why Spinal Tap is kind of important, whether people like it or not, is that the mockumentary, things that people watch now in The Office or Parks and Recreation, when the subject matter, kind of looks to the camera in chagrin, started with Spinal Tap, the kind of crazy comedy of throwing everything at the wall that's an airplane. You could say Little Blazing Saddles without the politics, but just, mapping the history of cinema, which is probably more my job or things like that. That is sort of the fun. But honestly, if sitting with people where I remember very quickly where I sat down with my kids to try to make them watch the original Thing.
And how old are they?
They are now 13 and 17. So this was probably, your mom was away, guys' night, probably about 8 years ago, and trying to warn them about how horrific the Thing is. It's going to be so scary. Please don't tell your mom about that. But also notice the Orson Welles kind of overlapping dialogue, things like that.
Yes.
That were great cinema. And your kids just sit there with these blank faces of, could you put Attack of the Clones back on, please? Where's the CGI?
I know. So it not only just like Brockman-in-Law over there, but, I don't know if this is a window into my viewing as opposed to with you're talking about with the Thing. I had to calm my youngest down, my 6-year-old down at the scene in Home Alone before the final break-in, and had to tell, look, it's okay. You're gonna love this scene. This is gonna be now. Law's smiling at that. That one you can relate to.
That one I can relate to.
Not as good as the third one in the series, mind you.
No Macaulay.
Everything had to start somewhere. We get that. There's one thing about film. Everybody takes it slightly differently.
Oh, well, and seriously, too. I mean, where we have people who come, can't believe we can't believe each other's movie viewing blind spots sometimes.
I just remember this is, and dating myself, working in a video store like all of us who ended up in,
You did?
in a video. Oh yeah,
wow.
Like you and Tarantino worked in. Was it the same video store?
Not together, and clearly not. His video store is probably a little bit better than mine, but arguing with somebody once about why Chariots of Fire was one of the greatest sports film ever, one of the great films ever, and the other person just could not care less about the concept of, runners in the 28, 26 Olympics.
Right.
But at that point, realizing that, sports, politics, film, and a film about sports and politics is not territory that one necessarily travel with another person.
John Ridley here on the Rich Eisen Show on a day where sports and politics are mixing in a big way, with Trump bringing the Patriots into the White House on a day also that Aaron Hernandez is found in jail.
I hate to sound, and I want to make very clear that it's not my intention to talk about this as though it was or should be a script. But like a lot of individuals woke up, I think I may have awakened to tweets about who's going to show up at the White House first or not.
Right.
And I'm actually not on Facebook or Twitter, but just for whatever reason, that's what I was seeing. And then Aaron Hernandez, and then honestly, as a writer, saying, okay, well, this is a script that were I to end it this way, people would say, well, it's not really realistic, so why don't you, just take another shot at it. But somebody was saying you're not sure how to feel, and I think that is okay and appropriate. On American Crime, we deal with the complexity of crimes, not the crime itself, but how it affects these communities, and not knowing how to feel about the man or the victims' families, this individual's daughter.
How do you create something like that, John?
I have to be honest with you, I'm very sincere. We go and try to look at the cascade effect, and there's so much of a cascade effect here. The other team members who may be agnostic about politics and just say, look, it's an opportunity to go as a team to the White House, however you may feel about that, they are not going to be able to have that day. On top of the politics, if there was any ever way to remove that, there is some other thing that people will always wonder, did that play a part in what happened in that jail cell? And the number of asterisks that are going to be on this day, on top of things that other people, however one may feel, and I certainly have my feelings about going to the White House, you are not going to be able to have a day that should have been just about the sport, what happened on the field, exceptionalism, things like that are out the window. So I can't, as a writer, there's so many things on a human level, and that's what we got to look at. Sport, politics, moments like this, they go beyond the moment, and they do become about humans. But there's no short way to tell that story, and there's no one way to feel about this day or what happened or what has happened over time with this individual.
Yeah, the executive producer and creator of American Crime, John Ridley, here on the Rich Eisen Show. I do want to take a quick 60-second break, come back, talk about your upcoming projects, as well as the Packers.
Absolutely.
The upcoming 2017 season for the Green Bay Packers, and put in front of you a theory that we have been putting out to no avail. Ted Thompson is not listening, John.
Fortunately, I have him on speed dial, as I have the entire Packers organization.
Outstanding.
So whatever happens here,
Hollywood Power, here on the Rich Eisen Show. John Ridley when we come back. Welcome back to the Rich Eisen Show. John Ridley, the executive producer of so many great TV shows and films. And in terms of great TV shows, John, we were talking about you can't make stuff up, right? I'm going to read the Hollywood Reporter review of Gorilla on Showtime. Oh. Have you heard this one?
I have not. I seriously do not read the reviews.
Here's the first two paragraphs. It's a measure of the storytelling success of Showtime's exceptional new miniseries Gorilla that it's somewhat annoying to have it premiere right in the heart of one of the busiest times of the year for TV critics and the company of a string of the medium's finest shows because it demands to be seen episode after episode. That's more praise than some may be able to appreciate, so try this. Gorilla, created, written, and partially directed by John Ridley, is already one of the best things appearing on TV in 2017 and could be an Emmy powerhouse. Congratulations, John Ridley.
Thank you. And I obviously have to thank a lot of people. I was working in the UK, was working under circumstances that were not familiar with me, not familiar to me.
Right.
And something that was rooted in history. A lot of research, a lot of conversations.
Taking place in 1971?
1971, about... unbelievably, if you can believe this, an immigration act that was going to divide a nation, potentially remove a lot of people who thought they were citizens, disenfranchise them. So many things that are so relevant and urgent in 2017. Not the first time that we were facing these things, and not the first time people felt as though the only way to act was to literally take up arms against the empire.
And one of the stars of this is Idris Elba, who to me is one of the best actors of our generation. And that is not, and I know what I'm saying. I know what it sounds like when I say that. I mean, for those for The Wire, playing Stringer Bell in The Wire, maybe one of the greatest anti-heroes in the history of television. I don't want to give away any more from The Wire, but
The Wire,
Luther.
Beast of No Nation, Luther. But not only that, not only is he an amazing actor, this guy is a DJ. This guy is a race car driver. I think he holds a land speed
He's
record.
an MMA fighter too, right? He
was
fights MMA.
doing the MMA training and doing a fight series while we were shooting Gorilla. If you've ever been concerned about giving a note to an actor, just do I really need to say this to Idris? Do I really? I think we got it. Could not have been an more amazing partner. Also, an executive producer on the show could not have got it made without Idris going to broadcasters saying, there's value in this story. This individual, being myself, I could go to the UK and tell a story that is going to be very raw for a lot of individuals, but very necessary.
And then in terms of raw, Let It Fall, Los Angeles, 1982 to 92. A theatrical production and release, I would, in a way, in the same way that ESPN put the OJ documentary in a movie theater as well. That won an Academy Award this year.
That could not have done it probably without that documentary carving the way and people understanding that doing long form about race, class, culture, there is an audience for it, and there are people who have an appetite to share in an experience that may not be theirs.
Mm-hmm. And what did you learn that you didn't already know about the 10 years in Los Angeles prior to and right up to Rodney King and the aftermath that you learned through this process?
I would say, John, more than anything, an appreciation for people willing to share their story. After 25 years, a quarter of a century, so many people, for them, it's not 25 years ago, it's a week ago, it's a day ago. There was real loss, real complicated decisions, individuals who, again, may not have my experience or my experience may not be theirs, certainly went into it with opinions, but came out of the experience with a respect for individuals who are willing to share their stories.
Well, this is yet more tremendous works from you, sir. Congratulations in advance of all of this. It's tough to keep up with. You're a triple threat right now, at the very least, John Ridley. Is there a sports movie you want to do that you've been pitched that you think would be a great idea? Something?
You know, when we were here, I think 3 years ago, I was talking about.
Yeah, this is your third time here, by the the
story. Yes,
the Lombardi story.
The Lombardi story. You know, I'm a huge Packer fan. What he did, obviously, as a coach, you know, the little doubt, little question. But I think in terms of an individual in a small town who not only transformed it in terms of a sports franchise, but also was a leader in integration, was a leader in making individuals, you know, we were talking to a coach earlier and you were talking about the parental aspects of coaching, the fact that, you know, these guys have to, you know, you're there and the value of having extra individuals. You cannot minimize the effect that somebody can have on a community, on individuals, on showing people that, you know, it sounds old fashioned. And, you know, the great thing about Wisconsin, we're an old-fashioned progressive state, but understanding that people can make a difference. And Vince Lombardi is one of those individuals.
By the way,
to be able to tell that story.
The coach that I was talking to is David Shaw of Stanford. I would love to put the two of you in the same room. Oh. You would have a lot to talk about, the two of you guys. David Shaw is a brilliant guy, and I think the two of you guys would have a ton to talk about. As for the Packers, okay.
Yeah.
Why not Adrian Peterson in that backfield?
Why not Adrian Peterson at backfield?
Right.
They need a backfield.
Don't you think?
Here's the thing. I just think it would be great. I think, you know, you talk about, rightly or wrongly, people said, well, you know, the Packers are not a star team. They've got great players, not a star team. They will be Super Bowl champions next year. I think
Nicely
we all know
done.
that and understand that.
Understood.
But the addition of Adrian Peterson, I do think, great player. Give people conversation. We talked about, you know, that sort of reverse Brett Favre kind of thing.
Yes.
The most important thing, and we talked about this backstage, for the first time in maybe 10 years, my family could be a family again.
Now, what do you mean by that?
My wife, Brett Favre, can do no wrong. I have this is a true story, I have almost no memorabilia of sports, as much as I love the Packers.
Sure.
My wife met Brett Favre backstage of The Tonight Show, has signed Brett Favre. Now, this is all Minnesota days.
Oh.
No, she was okay during the Packers. It was all good. I know I'm in trouble on my way home. But, you know, and then, you know, Adrian Peterson, it was like, well, you know, there needs to be somebody else for the kids. They were instilled in the gospel of Adrian Peterson. She claims that she likes the Packers, but we know that it was all about Brett Favre. I could not leave the team.
Is she a Minnesotan? Is that your wife?
No, she's from L.A. But L.A., you know, didn't have a team for years, essentially.
All right.
Brett Favre was just, you know, he's a great individual, and he is an amazing person. But as a Packer fan, you leave, you leave. You know, I wish him well. You're gone, you're gone. That's all there is to it. So for us to be able to root for Adrian Peterson on the Packers, 28, by the way, without giving away too much, very, very special number in our family. I'm not going to say why, but hugely special number for this guy to wear 28.
Okay. It works on every level.
On every level. So to be able to sit down on Sundays as a family, you know, we probably would not anyway because, you know, 17, 13 and all of that. But, you know, I'm a sentimental man.
Sure.
to have your family sit around and be able to watch the Packers win the Super Bowl with Adrian Peterson getting his ring.
In Minnesota, by the way.
Is it?
Yes, sir.
A little icing on that cake?
This is a day you can't write this stuff. You can't write this stuff.
In Minnesota.
And we would be able to go and feel good about it.
The Cheeseheads going there. You took one of ours, we take one of yours, and we win in your house.
It's closure, and these two states can reconcile again. We can erase the border, make it one big,
yeah.
Minnesota, kind of Wisconsin,
Minnesota.
Minnesota. Then we start working on the Upper Peninsula, get that back.
John Ridley, I love having you on. Thanks for coming on. We talked before about selling World Series rings. What about where's your Oscar right now?
It is in very in a short amount of time. It is an awesome object because of what it means, the history of it. I do not keep it in public view anywhere. I would not trade it for
Ever.
any
Ever.
No, not if at this point, if my kids can't make it on their own, they need to feed themselves. So that sorry,
they didn't make you sign anything.
Right? I'm not selling the Honda for them. I'm not selling.
Way to go, John Ridley.
Yeah,
way to go. And I'm just just so glad that when you won your Academy Award, it was for the actual film that won the Academy Award. That didn't happen to you. That just happened this past year.
All I can say is to have had your name called. There are moments you can talk about. I think to a degree, it's great that people can talk about what happened that night. But to not have your name called, to go through that is a real. It's a professional loss. It's a moment that can never be replaced. So great show, great representation, all of that. But I do feel badly for both La La Land and Moonlight.
Yeah, and they handled it. As
classy as you could under the circumstances.
I would have handled it like the guy dragged off the United plane.
I would trust me. It would have been not a pretty.
That would have been me. Like, wow.
Yeah. No,
good to see you, John. Again, ABC News, Let It Fall, Los Angeles, 1982 to 92. Keep an eye out for it on the big screen, and then American Crime on ABC and Gorilla on Showtime. Come back anytime. You're always welcome here.
Thank you. We'll be back with the Super Bowl.
Maybe
win it.
We'll see you in Minnesota. We'll see you in Minnesota next February.
The Rich Eisen Show, weekdays at noon Eastern on Audience.